Hello, I'm Michael Stanton, and I'm a master's trombone student at Stony Brook University. For Stony Brook's Mentor Monday series, I'm pleased to interview my teacher and esteemed trombonist, Michael Powell. Hi, Mr. Powell. Thanks so much for giving me the opportunity to interview you.
Hi, Michael, and happy election day.
Yes, indeed.
Oh,
Yeah, one way to distract us from some anxiety, I suppose.
I guess we need
um,
that.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, I guess I'll start out with some Stony Brook questions. How long have you been a professor at Stony Brook? And since the beginning of your tenure, how have you seen the department grow or change?
Wow. Stony Brook was pretty famous for many years. A great faculty, its proximity to New York City, relatively small department. Um, I started teaching in the middle 90s, probably 1996 is when I started up. And the department chairman at the time was David Lawton, and he's retired now. And my the original person that suggested my hiring at Stony Brook is Bill Purvis, who was the horn instructor there for many years, and he's been a friend for even longer. Yeah, I went out and I gave a sample lesson to somebody who was having some real issues producing a sound. I mean, it was a very remedial lesson. It kind of caught me a little bit off guard, but it seemed to go okay.
Hmm.
And fortunately I was able to say some helpful things.
You have been a member of the preeminent American Brass Quintet since 1983, I believe. Can you describe some of the circumstances of you becoming a member? Like, what was the audition process like, and how were your first couple of years in the group?
My audition was on December 30th, 1982, and I remember the date because I had to get back to Kansas City as I had a New Year's Eve job
Oh,
with a
wow.
big band there. Yeah. Um, and the audition was about half playing and about half talking. And the they sent me some passages to work up, and I worked on some old music by Anthony Holborn and some 20th century music by the Australian composer William Lovelock, which was kind of a toughie. And I also played some Victor Ewald from the 19th century. And but the big piece on the audition was the Elliott Carter,
Okay.
and that's a piece from the that was a piece written for the ABQ in 1974, and in my view, is about one of the greatest pieces of chamber music for any genre ever composed by any composer. That said, it's also really difficult, and the excerpted passage was a passage for the two trombones, and I played that along with Bob Biddlecombe,
Hmm.
and it seemed to go okay. And then there was a big interview after that, and they asked me if I was willing to relocate, and yeah, sure. Um, how do you feel about spending the summers at the Aspen Festival in Colorado? I said, okay, all right. Um, and that's been a lot of fun ever since. And it's kind of the years have gone by, and I guess it's kind of a life sentence, but I've enjoyed it very much. And I from a standpoint of music and camaraderie, I can't imagine living life differently.
You have been like the top premier, one of the premier classical freelancers in New York for over 30 years. Do you just have any advice for students or recent graduates that are trying to establish a base in the local city, or can you just maybe talk about some of your experience, like beginning your freelance career with ABQ and or outside of ABQ?
I think the best advice I can give to somebody who's aspiring to a freelance career is to be patient, um, and be as conversant with as many different musical styles as you possibly can be, because you never know who's going to be on the other end of the phone, what kind of music is going to be, what the situation is going to be. And first and foremost, be a good colleague. Um, follow the golden rule, which is even more applicable in the music profession.
Mhm.
The students are great at Stony Brook. They're all very, now, don't listen. All very wonderful advanced players, and I've learned just as much from them, hopefully, as they've hopefully learned from me.
I guess we have to talk about some current situations with since we're in the middle of a pandemic. Obviously, some orchestras
Yeah.
are closed, or how do you see like traditional orchestras maintaining relevancy? Not only, I mean, obviously this is a problem in the 21st century, but especially in a post-pandemic world. Perhaps you could discuss your experiences with St. Luke's or Orpheus Orchestra, which are ensembles that are, I think, consensuously considered unconventionals or like a little trailblazing. So, what do you have any thoughts on that?
Um, well, with Orpheus, although I wasn't involved, they recorded a piece. Well, they recorded piecemeal pieces, like at home and and then assembled by an engineer. But I think there was actually a distance concert, an outdoors concert, very recently, and I hear through the grapevine it was very successful. With St. Luke's, there have been some small attempts at distance performances, both at the Demena Center and at the Caramore Festival. And I actually got a chance to play with the St. Luke's Brass Quintet in July, outdoors, and to a very small, again, socially distanced audience. But it was just wonderful being with my colleagues again and playing some music. I understand that orchestras, both here and in Europe, are assembling for some recording and some distance concerts on an experimental basis. And I know that live music will come back. I think the vaccine has to come first, and then the vaccine has to be distributed widely, proven effective, and then maybe we can get back to some normalcy. That's what I'm looking forward to very much.
As a just some final closing thoughts or questions. I was just curious for me personally, but as a trombonist, what were some of your most difficult performances you had to give, or maybe what were some of your rewarding? Perhaps it might be the same performances, or but if you had any to choose, could you think of some?
Always the first performance that comes to mind is actually a performance in France. And this was at a small church near the Meuse River. And this was, the River Meuse was the scene of very serious trench warfare in the First World War. And we were at a very old stone church that was on the outside was absolutely pockmarked with bullet holes. And the church was very cold, and the heater was very loud, but they turned it off before we played. And the repertoire was, this is St. Luke's, the repertoire was Kurt Weill, Vom Totenwald, Death in the Forest. And the other work on the program was the Fauré Requiem. And the town is Verdun, which is, of course, historically famous. But being inside this little stone church with all this memory around it and playing these two emotionally very charged pieces was really something. The conductor was Philippe Herreweg, and the chorus was the Chapelle Royale, just a wonderful chorus, and that was an unforgettable concert.
Thank you so much for giving me just wonderful getting to know a little more about your background and just yeah, thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
Nice to chat with you, Mike.
Yeah,
And I'll see you soon, okay?
of course, definitely. Thank you.
Okay, I'll look forward to that.